it's nice to have so many people. Thank you so much for coming. I know we're going to have a wonderful program today. We have 3 birthday cards going around, and we wanted to sing happy birthday. But our birthday person is our piano player.
Oh. We can do it without.
We'll sing. Do you want us to sing happy birthday without a piano?
Yeah.
Well, isn't Roger here?
Bill can start it.
Okay. So Roger's not here yet, I don't think. We have 3 birthdays. Barbara Mayberry's birthday's today. Happy birthday, Barbara Mayberry. And Knight's birthday was what day?
Last Friday.
Last Friday. Happy birthday to her. And there's Roger Stewart. Now we can sing. This is his birthday. Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear.
Everybody.
Happy birthday to you.
Something better.
Okay. So I just want to quickly thank everyone that came to our Heritage Dinner, to our Hall of Fame program where we put Maria and Mary Elsner in our Hall of Fame. We had a wonderful program. Also everybody that was there when we had our little wonderful thing to honor Nancy Flagel, who for 25 years has taken care of all of the plants and things at the Hurstville Lime Kilns. It looks so beautiful out there, 25 years. And not only does she do that, but in the summertime, especially a summertime like this, there's no water there. So she has her whole trunk full of milk jugs, and she brings water and she waters all those beautiful plants. So we thank her very much, and everybody who enjoyed our great dinner. So thank you for coming, thank you for supporting the Historical Society at our fall fundraiser, which is so very important to us. I just want to tell you quickly, next week, Brown Bag Lunch on the 21st will be Ray Scott, and he's going to be doing a program about Lost Nation. And then on the 28th, Dave and Lisa Clark, everybody remembers Lisa and Dave Clark, they moved away some time ago. And I think Roger Stewart actually is the person that arranged this. Dave Clark has become quite the expert with antique coins and things. And he's going to be coming and doing a program for us about old coins, and has said that if you have any old coins that you can identify or that you want to know a little about, Dave Clark has said that, bring them along. So that should be a little bit different than our usual thing, but it should be a fun thing as well. So, with no further ado, I would like to introduce to you Linda Long Tubbs. I'm sure I get that right. So I was so excited because I was gone for a very long time. I was so excited to find out that her father was Superintendent of Schools, L.L. Long, and how long we have wanted to have a program about him. He wrote this wonderful little book, and I think we're going to be able to recreate this book, right? The family is going to let us do that because it's a wonderful little book. And so just so happy to have her and her husband Bill Tubbs here from DeWitt.
Actually, I need to correct that.
Okay, please.
We live in Eldridge.
Oh,
You may be thinking of Bill's brother Al and his wife Myrna live in DeWitt. And DeWitt would be a wonderful place to live, but we live in Eldridge.
I stand corrected. Thank you very much. Anyway, we're delighted to have them here, and I know it's going to be a wonderful program. So, turn the time over now to Linda, and thanks to Bill for getting this all set up and going. What you need?
So, well, I see a few familiar faces, and there may be more of you that I know that I don't know right now that I know. So, oh, sorry, I might just take it out of here this way. When Bonnie called to ask. When Bonnie called to ask me if I would be willing to make this presentation about the era of the rural schools in Jackson County, I did not really anticipate how it was going to be walking down memory lane myself. I went down to our basement and dug out a lot of the things that we had brought home from my parents' house once they had to downsize, that really had just been packed away since that time. And so it's been fun for me. I accepted her invitation mainly due to the pride I feel for my father, and in gratitude to you who think that the memories of his days as Jackson County Superintendent of Schools are worth preserving for future generations, to whom it eventually, if not already, has become a foreign concept. Here you see a picture of my father. Yes, they put dresses on baby boys in those days. He was born in 1907 in, would it be Lynn County? Is Lisbon in Lynn County? On a,
Cedar and Lynn.
well, where is Lisbon?
It's right on the county line.
It's on the county line of Cedar and Lynn County. And he was born at home on a farm near Lisbon. He was the oldest of 4. His dad worked the farm, and Dad and his siblings were expected to also work very hard from an early age to help mete out a living that would support the family. There was enough to feed them and clothe them, but not much left over for anything else. And certainly no unnecessary luxuries were ever dreamed of. Next picture, please. Dad and his siblings all attended Abbey Creek School. It's located west of Lisbon, off Highway 30 in Lynn County. Here's a picture, I think. The next picture has Dad and his siblings outside the school.
Swallow the mic.
Swallow the mic?
Yeah.
Sorry.
The next picture.
Please. This would be, I think, the entire student body of Abbey Creek School at that time. Dad is third from the left in the turtleneck sweater. His brother, Merle, is on the far right, the little boy with the, right on your right. And then his 2 sisters, Charlene on this side and Dorothy on the other. So 4 of those students are his family. Abbey Creek School has been preserved now, and it's on the State Historical Registry, and can be open to visitors. Next picture. It's a picture of one of Dad's report cards, and it's kind of interesting to see some of the things that they were judged on. Comes poorly prepared there. It looks quite different from today's report cards, as you can see, but I think I have every single one of his report cards from the time he started school till he graduated. He was an above average student. I'm sure that there were others probably that excelled more than he did at that time, but you can see that what 90s and 88s, 94s, that's not bad. Okay, next page. All right. In the book, A Ragged Beggar Sleeping, he tells a humorous story about how, as an 8th grader, he volunteered to build the fire each morning so that the school building would be fairly comfortable when the teacher and the other pupils arrived. So the teacher stopped by their home one evening after school and presented him with a gold piece to thank him for that, which sounds really great, doesn't it? I'm sure he was thrilled until my grandpa decided that if he could do that at the school, he could also get up even a little earlier and start the fire at home before the rest of them got up. Sounds like Grandpa. On Dad's graduation from 8th grade, my grandpa fully expected that Dad would be done with school and that he would stay at home and start working with Grandpa to do more of the farm work. But Dad had a different idea. Fortunately, when Dad pled his case, Grandpa allowed him to stay in school, where he showed enough skill on the basketball court at Lisbon High School that he was offered an athletic scholarship to attend at college at nearby Cornell College in Mount Vernon. Dad would never have gotten a college education without that basketball scholarship. It was not even a possibility. But he did. And it turned out to be something that changed the rest of his life. Yes, oh yes. There he is. And that is the old gym at that time at Cornell College. Thank you. Keep me on my toes. He graduated with a degree in education and was ready to take on the world when, with a bright future ahead, he contracted polio. He spent weeks at university hospitals, where in those days the theory was that the best path to healing was to keep patients flat on their backs in bed. But Dad convinced the doctors to allow him to work out in the university pool, where he pretty much developed his own physical therapy. It did help him to regain much more of the strength in his arm and his leg than he would have lying around in a bed during his recuperation. However, he did spend the rest of his life wearing a brace on one leg, walking with a cane, and one of his arms was visibly underdeveloped compared to the other one. After his recovery from polio, he procured a teaching position, worked to earn his master's degree, and went into administration, eventually procuring a position as superintendent in the Adair, Iowa school system. Next picture. This is my mom and dad's wedding picture. They were married. So he married Zoe Shipton of Cedar Rapids, and he and Mom became parents of two of us. Next picture. This is me and my sister Laura, and that was taken about the time we would have moved to Macokota, because the Jackson County Rural School Board courted him to leave his position and come here to become Jackson County Superintendent of Schools. Next picture. Oh, this one I just was too cute to pass up. Mother dressed us alike frequently, so we were quite close in age. Next picture. Oh, that one's kind of blurry.
That was not so good.
That's a picture of Dad in front of one of the first homes we lived here.
There.
And that, yeah, that's him in his office at the courthouse. What?
Swallow the mic.
You still can't hear? Can everybody hear? Tell me if you can.
When you swallow the mic, you can hear.
Well, okay. Yes, this is a picture. I see what you mean. This is a picture of Dad in his office at what I call the old courthouse. It's now been torn down. Guess where his office was? The top floor.
Oh, no.
Were there elevators? No. So every day he would leave our house in the morning, go to the courthouse, climb up 2 flights of stairs, steep, wobbly stairs as I recall, and do a little work at his office. Then he would climb down, go out and visit some of the rural schools, come back and again climb up the stairs to his office. And I never heard him complain that for heaven's sakes there should be some kind of accommodation. They should put his office on the ground floor or something to help him, but he just did what needed to be done. Next picture, please. This is a picture of Dad and two of his staff. Gladys Head on your left, and Helen Clauser. They were sort of like family. If I recall correctly, neither one was married, but they loved kids, and they loved it when we would come and visit.
It was a soil conservation contest.
Right, yes. They're going over scrapbooks that students had entered in the soil conservation contest, county soil conservation contest. Next picture is Marilyn Hood, another staffer at a later time, and they're viewing plans for an election of a new school board. Somebody know her? Yeah? I think that it's worth our time to repeat some information gleaned from the pages of the book. In the early days, county superintendents had to be politicians and campaign to be elected to the position. Around 1920, elections of superintendents were discontinued, and the president of each school district became responsible to fill the position. In the earlier days, most were men. Females had begun to enter the teaching profession when the number of male teachers began to decline in the 1920s. As a result, women eventually entered the administrative positions, and by 1935, slightly over half of the county superintendent's offices were occupied by women, many of whom had previously been successful teachers who sought further education in order to become superintendents. In 1948, county boards of education were created to appoint the county superintendent for a period of 3 years and fix his or her salary and traveling expenses. I found it interesting that at that time, a superintendent might serve as an administrator in more than one county. I can't even imagine the miles that one would put on the car or the vehicle to travel the breadth of several counties visiting the schools. It seemed like a lot of miles for Dad to even cover Jackson County to go out and visit each one of the rural schools at least once a year. Early on, teachers did not require any special training. Prospective teachers could secure a degree by one of three methods: attend summer school or a short term in college, or complete a normal training in high school, or just pass a test in the county superintendent's office. They had to show proficiency in writing, music, economics, arithmetic, physiology, spelling, reading, and grammar. The rural school teacher around the turn of the 20th century was predominantly male, with little or no formal education beyond the 8th grade. They were required to pass the Uniform County Teachers Examination, and their salaries ranged from $25 to $40 per month. Teachers were often required to furnish some of the necessary school supplies out of their own pocket money, such as chalk. Since these were basically the same requirements required to teach in the city schools, many of the rural school teachers left the rural system at that time and became teachers in town. And this left a shortage of rural school teachers. So Dad had the idea, in Jackson County at least, to solve this problem by contacting some older women who had held county certificates when younger and had quit teaching to raise families and now were anxious to return to the teaching field. He secured emergency certificates for them during their first year, but they were required generally through a correspondence study to earn 6 approved hours of college credit to update their original certificates. They were in return awarded an excellent retirement program by the state, and often these teachers procured jobs in the urban systems when the rural schools closed. Right, this is the, let's skip to this one. Yeah, the interior of the school is the one I want.
That's the one we read. We were at the interior.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
There. We were on that
Yes.
in a long time.
Were we?
Yeah.
Oh, what would I do without him? So where was I then? Okay, we'll go on to the next one. Well, before we talk about this picture, I'd like to talk about one of the programs that was especially near and dear to Dad's heart, and that was the fire prevention program. I should have asked long ago how many attended a rural school in Jackson County, of course. Okay. How many of you remember the fire prevention poster contest? I think that was one of Dad's favorites. It was sponsored by the Farm Bureau, and competitors of each county created posters encouraging fire prevention. These were judged, and the winners were invited to Des Moines to receive their awards. Dad would accompany the winners from Jackson County and took great pride in the fact that the county did exceptionally well in this competition. There was also a state spelling bee. This is the winner in 1950 of the county spelling contest. Not identified. If any of you know who it is, you can tell us. But it's a dad congratulating this happy winner of the county spelling bee, who then was qualified to compete against other county winners in Des Moines. And there was also a countywide track meet, which was held toward the end of the school year in the spring. And in going through Dad's things, this is a stopwatch. He had it labeled. This is a stopwatch he used to time the racers in the county track meet. It doesn't work anymore.
They also had a county softball tournament.
Okay. Yeah, if anybody has, jump right in if you have something to share about anything that I'm talking about. That was for both boys and girls, or just boys?
Boys and girls.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Next picture. This is the rural teachers at the Rural School Teachers Institute in 1950. I know it's not a very good picture, but you can tell, at least as I look at it, I don't see any males. They look to be all female. And under there it says that they worked up until, well, around the turn of the 20th century, most were predominantly male. Their salaries ranged from $25 to $45 a month. They were often required to furnish some of their supplies, and we had talked about that. In rereading A Ragged Beggar Sleeping, I was reminded what strong conviction was often required in Dad's position. For instance, one time, Dad had to deal with a complaint surrounding the fact that one of the rural schools in the district was essentially operating as a parochial school while receiving state tax money and state aid. Eventually, Dad had to enlist the help of the county attorney, who worked out an agreement that allowed the school officials to continue to operate the school, but without state funding. The school officials would also have to designate a public school for the non-parochial schools to attend and pay for their tuition and transportation to that school. Both sides agreed, and the matter was settled. Eventually, the state board the Education Board of Iowa ruled that the rural schools were to be closed. Many of those whose children attended those schools and were going to be affected met this ruling with much angst and resistance. I can remember our phone ringing in the evening at home, and we could hear someone on the other end of the line yelling, I mean literally yelling at my dad about the fact that they were closing, that he was closing the rural schools. It was not his decision, as we all know. There was sometimes profanity involved, which Mother tried to shield our ears from. But he always handled it very diplomatically, and usually by the time the conversation was over, he had calmed down the person on the other end of the line. Some of the strongest opposition about the closing of the schools was from the owner at that time of much of the property in Hurstville. And I'm not exactly sure I understand why it was going to affect his life so much, except that he owning much of the property and renting it out, and he had students there. Did he did he benefit financially?
When there
from
were
it?
complaints, they were evicted.
Okay. So,
Parents complained about the school, they were evicted from the rental unit.
okay. I was entering my freshman year in high school in the fall of 1961 when I met some new classmates for the first time. Some who became among my best friends. I invited one to be with us today, Connie Castile Wilcox, who, except for college and a few years teaching elsewhere, has lived in the Maquoketa area all of her life. And Connie and I became very good friends when she joined the Maquoketa High School class of 1965. Connie accepted my invitation to join us today, and in a bit I will be asking her to share any recollection she has of having been a student in a rural school. From my observations then, and as I look back years later as an adult, these new students were assimilated into the classes extremely seamlessly. Some turned out to be among the best students, athletes, and musicians. You have to hand it to those hard-working rural school teachers who had prepared the students so well. And I hope that if you were to ask these students how they felt about it, they would say that they may have had some trepidation about leaving their small rural school and coming to the big city school, but that they were generally accepted and happy once the adjustments were made. Before I close, I want to make you aware of a Facebook group called Iowa Rural Schools. How many of you knew there was a Facebook group? And you might be interested in browsing. Somehow, I'm not even sure how, but I get all their feed. And there are some interesting pictures posted there, and some of you may even want to post a picture of a still standing rural school in Jackson County. The last pictures are next. I'm a graduate of the University of Northern Iowa in Cedar Falls, and I'm very proud to say that they have moved onto campus, a rural school. And this is a picture of me at the rural school on the campus of UNI campus in Cedar Falls. The university museum staff spent countless hours and a great deal of effort restoring and furnishing the schoolhouse. Bill and I funded the purchase of the teacher's desk, and locating just the right one and restoring it to its authentic appearance was no small feat. The staff spent months and months searching for a desk and finally found one in the estate of some elderly lady who had passed away somewhere in Iowa. I'm not even sure where, because they were searching everywhere. This is a picture of the desk they found. They refurbished it to be as authentic as they could, and it's now in the schoolhouse on the UNI campus. Let's see some of the other pictures of the interior. See the wood stove in the back. This one had a piano, and I'm not sure about the mannequin with the men's dress suit, but whether that's supposed to represent a teacher.
There's your piano.
There's the piano, the maps, the front. Is that where they hung their, Bill, do you remember there in the front, is that where they hung their lunch buckets or their coats? I'm not sure, I can't tell from here. See the next picture. Yeah, they have a fire extinguisher in this one. I doubt that there was one here. Next. That's how a teacher might have been dressed in, what, the 20s or 30s. Telephone. I'm not sure they all had phones, but this one did. You can see the books in the bookcase. Yes.
That's the desk.
That's the desk again. Small.
And the bell.
And the bell on the desk, yes. Next. Sandbox. Does that look familiar? You don't see those in classrooms anymore. In fact, I'm sure our grandchildren can't read or write cursive. I hope they can sign their names. It's called the Marshall Center One-Room School. It's on the Silos and Smokestacks Registry. It's open for school children to take field trips so they can see about this era in our history. It's also open to other campus visitors. And if any of you would be interested, or if you'd be interested in going as a group, I would be more than happy to help arrange for that with the authorities there at the UNI campus. It would be a good experience. Lastly, I am very pleased that you have decided to duplicate the booklet, A Ragged Beggar Sleeping, and therefore make it more accessible to the public. I'm sure that Dad would be proud that in writing it, he was able to help you with some fundraising and also in a small way help to preserve the memory of the era in education that we have been talking about, because there will come a day when there will be no one living who will even actually remember when the girls' schools were so important.
Yeah, a couple more pictures.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go.
There's it.
Oh, well, that's just some people you and I were.
That was President Nook.
Well, yes. Standing to my right, the gentleman in the suit there next to Bill is the president of UNI.
And the woman on the right is the Dean of Education.
Yes. Okay.
And the other people are archivists and historians for
Yes.
the UNI
The
archives.
young man in the red tie, I think, is the real historian.
Yeah,
He just really impressed us that day.
yeah. And he was very eager to have this book.
Yes, well, let's show that picture. I think I have a picture of the.
There.
They have, in a display case, maybe you can't tell that it's behind glass. Can you see down at the bottom is the book? And so I'm kind of proud of that. Okay.
That's it. And that's us. The gentleman on the right was a professor of education at UNI, distinguished individual named Roger Keeter, Kueter, whose family is from Bellevue. And I got to know him quite well through the Rotary organization, and so we connected with him.
I know I had a good reason to bring you along. That's it. So, Connie, you want to come up here? Yeah, I try best to hold it because otherwise you're, let me get that heck off for you. There you go.
Hear me? You can hear?
You know, when you're up there, it sounds like it's, I'm sorry if you couldn't.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just not ready. Well, when Linda called me the other day, I said, sure. And I think I'm worse than Linda in terms of getting up in front of people. But, way up, okay, it's right on top of my head.
You probably get my nerves.
Can you hear better if I just this one?
I think it's on.
It's on. You gotta get close, you gotta get right up there.
You got to project.
Okay? Yeah, all right.
We need to use our teacher voices.
It was in 1952 in the fall that I started at South Fork, number 9 I think it was, down by the caves. And then we moved to the farm, purchased the farm, so I was at the Emmeline district all the way through 8th grade. We were one of the very last to reorganize. There were 28 in our class. We had Berta Foster was there most of the time. There were 8 in my class alone, which, if you can imagine, a teacher doing all of that. So I think how we survived and ended up doing well in high school is because we helped so many kids. I was out in the hall maybe more than I was sitting at my desk. I would get my work done, and a few other of us, and they'd have us read, help read, you know, to the kids that were having a problem, or, you know, help with math, all that sort of thing. So I think maybe that's how we survived. I remember when Mr. Long would come, when Linda's dad would come, we would all kind of shudder at first and be in our best behavior, but he was very good. One of the downsides for me was because I went through all 8th grades. When I came to school in Macocota in 9th grade, my worst subject was PT, PE. Can you imagine? I didn't know what a tennis ball was. I mean, I knew how to help Dad make hay and Mom in the garden. I knew how to play softball. And so I would come home every night and I'd say, Mom, I don't know if I can do this. I said, they'll all be laughing. And then there was the trampoline, and I didn't want to get on it, you know, and everybody else. So I think that was my downside. But we had people like Linda and other people, and I was fortunate to be in band and vocal. And so I started making some very good friends, but those first few months were really tough because I couldn't even get into the desk right. You know, the desk with the curve. But that's been a long-standing joke, but the first year wasn't funny because of the way the desks were. So I think that was the downside, but the upside was that we were to help so many kids. And you know, I have kids come up to me even now yet that say, you know, how grateful they were that we had, because Mrs. Foster, with 28 kids in all those grades, she had her work cut out for her, just, you know. So, but many fond memories too. I guess that's about.
Why don't you see if anybody has questions?
Yeah. I know another thing I want to say. My mother, of course, was in country school, and her, at that time, a woman couldn't be married and teach there. So her parents
they had to find somebody in their school district to house the parent or house the teacher. So in Mom's case, it was the teacher lived at their house. Can you imagine that? So, I mean, my mother said she had to be perfect because, you know, there was the teacher there eating supper with them and all, and if she'd have done anything wrong. So things changed from the time. So anyway, thank you.
I remember right, from my high school years, Linda and Connie were our valedictorians of our class. So she did pretty damn well.
That
Well, see, it's a good thing I brought Connie because I thought they assimilated really well, but now that I see from her standpoint how hard it must have been for those kids to come from that tight, small group. I think if I just yell, I'll be better off. Anybody have questions? Yes, Roger.
One of the big
Mr.
things
Stewart,
that
I
happened
should
in
say.
country school was graduation. And we come to the middle, we call the middle school. Our picture was taken on the steps of the north steps. And there were a lot more country kids at that time because farms were smaller. So it was a huge group of kids. I've got our picture, yeah.
I have my picture,
Yeah.
1957.
Here in Jackson County?
Yep,
Where was your school?
Richland number 5, Richland Township.
Okay.
I graduated 8th grade.
Okay. Yes.
I didn't go to country school, but I was right after we were married, I was at Wayne's aunt's house for a church circle meeting. And this one lady was so upset about the little girls are going to have to go to school and they won't be able to wear their slacks under their skirts and they're going to get cold.
Was your father born on what they called later on the Plattner farm, on the Cedar Jones Lynn line?
No, it was very close to Lisbon. Just,
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
Well, now you may know something I don't know.
Well, my sons were raised up on that farm, and when you gave the description of the county line where he was born, it sounds like the Plattner farm, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't answer that question, but could very well be or close by.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
May I share, I went to a country school in Zwingle, Iowa, and I don't know, we thought that was the biggest country school in the county, is what they said. And they had hot lunches. We had 2 rooms. One was kindergarten through 4th grade, or 3rd or 4th, I don't remember. And then we had the big room where you went from 6th grade to 8th grade. And they closed that school when I had to go to 5th grade here in Makokada. And we had to be bused, and they had one bus for seemed like 80 or 90 kids in that county. But it was a sad day when that closed.
Yeah, I mean, I understand how people felt. Any change is hard. And the rural schools seemed, from their standpoint, to be working very well. And I think they were. But I think that once the transition was made and people felt more comfortable with it, looking back, it was probably a good thing. It must have been hard, to keep all the rural schools going, as many as there were, for one thing. So.
Pardon me, one other thing I'd mention is that there was a little transition, we were country kids coming to school. The other thing I'll just mention is that when we were in country school during the war, one of the things we did was go out in the countryside. Our teacher sent us out in the countryside to collect milkweed pods that would go in life preservers for service people. That was the most fun at school we ever had.
There's a school on what I call the Caves Road that must have activities there, because sometimes when we go by, we see cars. Do you know which one I mean? Bill, can you describe better where it
Was
is?
it north of the
That'd
caves?
be Emmeline.
That's the
That's the
Emmeline
Emmeline
School.
School.
They still have it open for 4-H meetings and things like that.
Okay, well, we have a home at Wildwood Acres, and so sometimes when we go by to go there, we see activity there. So it's nice that that one has been repurposed to be used and kept up and kept.
It's nothing like the school.
I think
Yeah.
Lynn, you might just read your dad's prologue. Here lies a ragged beggar sleeping.
Oh, well, I think they have copies of the book.
Sure. But
Yes. Oh, yes, of course.
I remember Mom taking me to school. I was probably 4 years old and I got to play the sandbox. And, the sandbox I played in was a lot bigger than what you showed us.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm glad you
And
shared
when
that.
recess came, I remember Ron Sagers and some other older kids, they'd take me out for a sleigh ride. And I thought it was hot stuff.
It really was fun. Oh, was it? Bill suggested I read the
well,
regulators.
did you? Here's some more questions and comments.
I remember going to a country school, and we had one wash basin where water was put in. We had to go to a farmer and get water. And it ended up that we all, 30 kids, washed our hands in the same water.
We all drank from the same cup.
Yeah, and the same dipper.
Yes.
I went to Rathburn number 8, probably 1940, and my twin sister and I were the only two in our class.
I think it was not uncommon to have very small class sizes, and yet that teacher had to teach to that ability, even if there was just one student at that age level. Yes.
Talking about how hard it was to go from country school to public school, I was like her. There was only one other person in my class. I went kindergarten and first grade in country school. My sister's class had 4, and that was one of the bigger classes. But then when we went to public school and I was in 2nd grade, they had different groups in school, and they lettered them A, B, C, and D. And unfortunately, all the country kids was in the D group, and yeah, we got the name of the dumb group because yeah, it was, you know, it was really such a shock to go to this big public school and be labeled the dumb group because we didn't have all the social skills that the town did. But I got back at them. I graduated 3rd in class. But it was really hard to go from country school to public school because there were so many different things we weren't used to. And then we classified right away as a dumb group because we were country kids. But it was okay.
Perhaps I made it sound too easy from my standpoint, looking at it as someone accepting these people. And I apologize if I did that, but I think that hopefully there was someone in your new situation that accepted you. I mean, I didn't think of Connie as any different from anyone else that I'd gone through school with all those years. And I hope there were people like that in most of the classes that made the rural students feel accepted. Well, Bill suggested that I read to you the poem, The Ragged Beggar Sleeping. Well, actually, it's
Just the prologue.
it's the prologue to the book, and it's here sits the schoolhouse by the road, sunning, and then the one-room schoolhouse may have been a ragged beggar sunning, but thousands of people still retain pleasant memories of its charm. Rox Laird stated it best when he wrote, do any of you recognize the name Rox Laird? Wasn't he a columnist for the Des Moines Register? The one-room county school seems so far removed from today's sprawling educational complexes that it's easy to forget that there's a sizable number of Iowans who began their education in one-room schools, and that the simple structures were an integral part of the state's educational system up until just the past few decades. If the complimentary words written by a high school principal in 1916 are true, it is of little wonder that the graduate of the county school still strolls down the primrose path of memory lane. He wrote, "Many of my best students come from the county, and some are batching," whatever that means. This is only one of the many evidences of the true spirit of American boys and girls. A dozen years hence, who cares whether those boys and girls walked on fine carpet and feasted at richly spread tables? Struggle and privation in youth develop a fiber that stands the test of life's struggles. And these boys and girls will, in a short time, be the men and women who are doing things and making a success of life. Anybody else? Thank you. There was one more thing I was going to mention. I found in going through all this material a column that, how many of you recognize the name Chuck Offenberger?
Yeah.
Oh, you have it.
I have a signed copy of your dad's book.
Oh, do you? And what is your name?
Linda?
Oh, Belinda. Yes, of course. I thought that's who it was, but I didn't know you were here. Okay, yeah.
So, anyway, yes, Oppenberger, go ahead, you were going to.
No, I think I'm done. I think I better be done if I didn't even recognize Linda. Anybody else? Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bill, for all your help. And thank you, Connie. And everybody else who participated, thank you. We'll see you again next week. Thank you.